Okay, so first of all, thank you so much for agreeing to answer a few of our questions, Josie. We're excited to get to know you a little bit better and for the opportunity to have our members get to know you a little bit better. So thank you for your time. We appreciate it. I am going to, the way this is going to work, I'll turn the time over to Lonnie. He's going to introduce himself, and then we'll give you some time for an introduction, and then we will go right into questions with our 2-minute timer here. Just kind of watch the timer. It will beep when you get to 2 minutes. And yeah, that's kind of the process.
Great.
So go ahead, Lonnie. Oh, Lonnie, you're on mute.
There we go. All right. Okay, Josie. So my name's Lonnie Campbell. I'm the president of the chamber here. We've put together these 5 questions that we formulated all around business related problems. We do ask that you try to keep your answers as closely related to business as you can. Mm-hmm. We do want you to try to keep as close to the 2-minute timer as possible so that it's fair for everyone and everyone gets the same amount of time. With that, one last thing. I'm going to have there's 5 questions that you'll see in the chat. I've got one final question that I'll ask you at the end when Lacey gets done. So okay, be prepared for that. But first off, let's take the first 2 minutes or however much time you'd like and introduce yourself.
Sure. All right. Well, my name is Josie Kovash. I am one of the candidates for City Council for this election cycle. I've lived in Moab for about 16 years. I grew up in southwestern Colorado, so I spent most of my life on the Colorado Plateau. I decided to run for City Council because I think Moab has gotten pretty crazy in the last few years. Obviously, our tourism economy has really taken off, and whatever economic benefits might be coming our way through that, I have noticed with myself and most people I talk to that there is a lot of strain happening as well. And we are, of course, experiencing things that are happening all over the West and really the country in terms of housing shortages and workforce shortages. And you know, it's been a crazy couple of years. So obviously there's a lot going on all at the same time. But I have a 17-month-old daughter. She's here with us today. And she also is a huge reason why I'm running, because it's no longer just about me and my happiness in Moab. It's also about her future happiness in Moab. So there's an extra incentive to really make sure that we are fixing things that are issues currently, and also really looking forward to what's going to make this a resilient community 20 years down the road, generations down the road. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Great, thank you. Sorry, there we go. I lost my thing here. Okay, so with that, then we're going to go ahead and ask you just a few questions here. The very first question we have for you is, what role do you think our local government should play in the growth and development of local business?
Sure. I mean, I think the local government can play a lot of roles in promoting a healthy business economy that is primarily local and at a scale that's manageable for a community of our size. I think small businesses are great. I think small local businesses are even better. I work for 98 Center, which is, I think, a wonderful example of a very local oriented, workforce oriented, small restaurant that also does really well with the tourist populations, but is at a scale that is, manageable and stays very local friendly and sources food locally and has waste practices that sort of minimize impact locally. All those benefits that come from businesses that are owned by people who are invested in this community. As far as what local government can do, I've been on the County Planning Commission for a little over a year. I think that there's a lot we can do in terms of land use code and zoning to encourage businesses that are underrepresented in our community, and to discourage businesses that are maybe overrepresented in our community. I think we can act as a platform for helping small businesses connect to resources that they may not otherwise connect with. And I'm very interested to partner potentially with the county, because they have their community and economic development department that is very interested in diversifying our economy past just tourism. And I think that's really important too, is just really courting other industries. And also lastly, preserving what agrarian and agricultural businesses we possibly have left in this rural community.
Great, thank you. That was like right on the dot.
Yeah.
That was impressive.
That KZMU practice, it's there.
Awesome. Okay. The next question we have for you is, given the recent budget deficit discussions at the city, what are your ideas on how to optimize the budget to benefit our community now, as well as set us up for the future?
Sure. I think this is one of the hardest things facing the city right now. And it's unfortunate that even though clearly a lot of money is flooding into this community in terms of just sheer tourist numbers, that so much of that revenue then immediately exits the community. We are only legally allowed to keep so much of our sales tax and our TRT from overnight accommodations, and are limited in what we can often use those funds for. So as a city, we're between a rock and a hard place in that we have this thriving industry that doesn't actually seem to be filling our coffers in a way that we need to fix basic things like infrastructure. So this is tough. And aside from trying to apply more leverage to the state to allow us to keep more of the actual tax revenue that comes from tourist dollars, so that we can start to use that money to really help this community mitigate the impacts of tourism and fund all of the other things that we would like to fund as a city moving forward. Beyond that, I have a long history with nonprofits in Moab, and nonprofits have to get very creative about funding, finding grant money that's out there, finding creative ways to match grant money that's out there. And I think there are ways to do that. And if we really establish a culture and objectives within the entire city staff to be of this mindset, to look for all available sources of funding and be creative about how we can use those, then that's honestly a path moving forward.
Great, thank you. All right. Third question we have. In the business community, we are seeing similar problems with commercial space as we are residential in terms of affordability and availability, making it difficult for new and or diverse businesses to establish themselves. What are your thoughts on possible solutions for this issue?
Yeah, similar to the first question, I do think local government has a role in sort of countering market forces that create these kinds of inequities. Obviously with housing, I do think there's a role for both government and for outside of government nonprofits and other community organizations to really level the playing field. And I think that's true for commercial spaces as well. And as I said, I think planning and zoning, land use code can be used really intelligently to just enable the kinds of businesses and the level of business ownership, local business ownership that we want in this town. And so that's one way to go about this, is to just really utilize our planning and zoning to full effect. Beyond that, let's see, I had another thought. Let's see if it comes to me in terms of affordable housing as well. Nope, I think it's escaped me. So yeah, I think planning and zoning is number one for trying to orchestrate the kinds of commercial space uses that we want to see in this community. Nope, it left again. Sorry. Okay, I'll end it there.
Great, thank you. Maybe it'll come back in one of these.
Yeah, maybe it'll come back.
All right. Okay, fourth question. In our city, there are divides between opinions, particularly around our economy. How have you found compromise and built unity in the past? And how do you plan on doing that in the future, specifically with the economy growth of Moab?
Yeah. So like I said, I've worked with a lot of nonprofits in town. I also spent a lot of time working with Outward Bound, who has a program right here in Moab and has a curriculum very specifically around leadership and team building, which has a lot to do with finding consensus. And in that realm, oftentimes you're, in a remote wilderness area, miles and possibly days from outside intervention. So you kind of have to come to consensus in order to move safely downstream or overland or whatever that may be. So I feel like I have a lot of tools for what that consensus looks like. I know there are a lot of divisions in this town and everywhere right now on so many issues. And I've often been surprised at where those divisions sort of pop up. And I think it's always a learning lesson, most recently, like with the property tax debate, it's always a lesson to see where there's tremendous amount of pushback. And rather than say, well, it's either this or that, it's all or nothing, I think workshopping potential policy is really important. And I think the city has made really good efforts, but can possibly do more as far as engaging the citizenry so that they feel like they're part of the process from the start to finish. There's no such thing as over communication. And so really making sure that there are plenty of proactive ways to get public forums and people involved so that they are part of that process. And I think there is often multiple steps that are needed to workshop something to where it is palatable for most people. And so I think I have the patience to do that. I have the optimism that that is how we get to a better outcome and actually get things done.
Great, thank you. All right, last question here is, economic diversification of Moab's tourism-based economy has been the topic of many local government discussions. What would your approach to diversification be in relation to the current established industry?
Yeah, I think economic diversification is such a buzzword, and it's an important buzzword, but it obviously needs to be fleshed out. And I don't have all of the answers yet. I just kind of know where I want things to go. I worked for the Youth Garden Project for a couple of years. That got me introduced to kind of Moab's history as an agrarian community. I think it's important that we maintain some of that primarily, and that also will apply to our potential food resiliency in the future. I think we've all seen in the last couple of years sort of global supply chains and how vulnerable they are. And down the road, it might be good if Moab has maintained enough of a farming community to actually have local food supply and resources like that. So, that's important and something that I would like to prioritize moving forward, because it often goes against the interests of, how to maximize real estate investment in the current market. I think we will always, or at least for a long time, have a tourist economy. And I think it's all about scale. A lot of people would call what we currently have an extractive tourist economy, which sort of means that it's, feeding off of our community more than it's giving back. And so if we scale back down to a level of tourism that is sustainable and doesn't stress our resources and our workforce, that still is an incredible source of revenue and of economic gain. In addition, there's so many talented people here. There's incredible makers, there's incredible builders, there are incredible thinkers. We have an amazing scientific community. So I think it really does take a lot of creativity to creating pocket industries, possibly outdoor gear manufacture, things like that. There are other small communities all over the West that have these robust kind of small cottage industries, whether it be distillery, microbrew, pack raft manufacturing, things like that. We just need to get creative.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So that's all of the questions that I have. Thank you so much. And then I'm going to turn the time back over to Lonnie.
Great.
All right, Josie, thank you. The final question that I've asked everyone that has come in front of us is, in a minute or less, can you tell us why the business community should vote for you?
Sure. Well, I have a long history of working in all kind of sections of this town. I have spent a lot of time in our service industry as a barista, server, bookseller, taxi driver. I have a pretty deep understanding of what things feel like to local business owners, especially those that have, pretty narrow profit margins, but are doing tremendous good in the community. And also our workforce, which, is pretty essential, and we are short-staffed all over the West, and it's something that has become significantly a problem. So I feel like I understand holistically what makes these all tick, and I really have such a fondness for our local economy. It's amazing that we have still a local bookseller, that we have a local food cooperative, that we have so many strong small local businesses, and I am really invested in maintaining that. And I think you put your timer at 2 minutes, but you said a minute, so I'm going to stop there.
Right. Sorry.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Sure.
Awesome. Well, that's all we've got for you. Hopefully it wasn't too painful.
Not at all. Thank you, guys.
And we are trying to get these out hopefully tomorrow on our website. And I will let you know when we do that. And they'll be on the chamber website, and then they will go out through our social media and in an email blast to our members, just for people to watch. And if you have any questions for me, let me know. And yeah, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for giving me the platform.
Of course.
All right.
All right. You have a good one, Josie. Thanks.
You guys too. Bye.
Okay. Bye.